Okay, so we're recording. We're about to start the webcast, our web podcast, excuse me. I'm about to turn the audio on. In 3, 2, 1. Hi and welcome. This is Matt with Deep Woods Paranormal.
And Amanda from Deep Woods Paranormal. There's a delay.
Yeah. So, tonight we're going to be continuing on with our conversation about Ouija boards. I think Amanda and I kind of have a little bit difference of opinion, but overall I think we share the same opinion.
Maybe not. We'll see.
We'll see. So she's going to start out kind of talking about some of her experiences, and we're going to go from there.
Okay. Well, first I just want to, for anybody that doesn't know what a Ouija board is, explain what it is. The Ouija board was made and patented in 1891 in the 19th century. And basically it was a flat piece of wood with the alphabet on it. And at the top there was a yes and a no. And at the bottom there was a goodbye. And it was advertised as a way to commune to the other side. So the Ouija board has been around for 130 years. And is still sold in stores today. Also, when it was first made, it was only $1.50. And now, it could go upwards.
Yeah, 130
years
ago. That was pretty expensive for 130 years ago. $1 for anything would be very, very pricey.
Right, and it was patented, and, the original people who made it, who patented the game, essentially, they weren't even spiritualists. The spiritualism was really in the, mid 19th century. That's basically 1840s to end of the 19th century. It was kind of like a popular pastime. Like a lot of people had seances and they used the Ouija board, and they we're really into communing with the other side. So, I had a Ouija, well, I didn't have a Ouija board yet, but it was probably when I was maybe 13 to 15. And all my cousins are really close to my age. So I was 13, my cousin was 12, 10, 9. So there were 4 of us cousins, and I was over at my cousin's house. And we were in the very back room, and my cousin had a Ouija board. She had just gotten it. Had never seen one before then. Before that time. It was the first time I've ever actually seen one. I knew what it was. I've heard of it. But I'd never seen one before. And so she's like, let's go to my room and see if we can see what happens. Let's go try to do this. And so, we went into the room and shut the door because my aunt, was there. Multiple aunts were there, and, we were just didn't want anybody to know that we were playing with the Ouija board. So we were, communing with something or someone, and we were asking questions, and it was moving. And of course, we all sweared we weren't moving the planchette over the letters. And all of a sudden, my Aunt Nancy threw open the door. The door hits the wall, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she insists that there was a demon in the room, and she chased it all around. And I think I told this story before. But it was really interesting. So that was my first, time that I used a Ouija board. But that didn't stop me. I don't know why. But it became even more fascinated with the Ouija board. And I can't remember if my sister bought it or I bought it, but our dad was really upset because he believed in the Ouija board because something happened to him that he wouldn't even tell us about. He would not tell us what happened. He wanted us to take the Ouija board out and burn it. And my dad wasn't spiritual. He never talked about ghosts. He didn't believe in ghosts. And that Ouija board, he wanted to burn it. But my sister and I had a Ouija board, and we would play with it every once in a while. And then my friends had Ouija boards, so we would play with the Ouija board then. And one of the things that I remember, because it was so long ago, to be honest with you, that I was over my friend's Terry's house, and I think there was 4 of us girls, and we were sitting in, she had like a sunroom, and we totally believed it. Like, we were into this Ouija board, we believed it, and we read up on how to use it, because before we were just using it indiscriminately. We didn't really know how to use it, but we opened and closed a door. So the way that she read it is that we were supposed to circle the infinity sign 8 times prior to starting. And then when you're complete talking or communing with the ghost, you were supposed to do the infinity 8 times to close it. So who knows if that was true, but we did do that to open a door. And supposedly I was talking to my grandfather, and midway through whatever we were talking to flew, like the planchette flew across the room. So everybody swears that they didn't do it, but I don't know. It flew across the room and hit the wall. And so that's my story. I kind of stopped using it, and it went into the closet. My dad wanted to burn it, like I said, and it stayed in the closet. And I think when he died in 2008, I'm pretty sure my mom threw it away in the trash. And it's gone. But nothing ever evil happened to me. But my sister told me that she took it to a party, and that the planchette flew off there as well. So I don't know. Who knows? I think my opinion, Matt, is that it can open a door because people believe it does. And there's something to be said about belief, and I just think that it could be a bad thing. So we currently don't have a Ouija board in the house, do we?
Oh, God.
No. We don't have a Ouija board in the house. We don't want one in the house. We don't want that door to be open. There's so many stories where crazy things have happened from Ouija boards. Of course, there's scary movies that are out there. But personal stories, like I remember someone was telling me a story about their experience with the Ouija board, and it's always the planchette flies, right? I think if you hit it a certain way, it does move pretty far. But someone was telling me a story. They were with their family. They were doing the Ouija board, and they had the fireplace on and open. And this is from a story from a long time ago. And the planchette flew, of course, and when it got into the fire, because it flew and like accidentally ended up in the fireplace, it screamed like a girl.
Yeah, that's kind of my story too. When I was growing up, I was at a sleepover with a bunch of friends. It was a birthday party, and essentially the guys thought it'd be cool in the middle of the night to start playing with a Ouija board. And I woke up because I don't know what woke me up. I was only about 8, and I don't know what was going on. It was raining outside. I know that. And they were playing all kinds of scary games. They were playing what is it called, where you go into the bathroom and you
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary. They were playing Bloody Mary, and they were doing all kinds of stuff to just try and scare each other. Shh. Okay, sorry. Bear with me for a second. I got a little dog. Let's go down. So they were playing all kinds of different games, trying to scare each other. And so I guess they pulled out a friend of them. His had brought a Ouija board over, and he thought it'd be fun to play with the Ouija board. And I don't know what woke me up, but almost felt like I was a little bit possessed because I don't even remember doing this. I grabbed the damn Ouija board. I grabbed the puck. I started a fire, which they just couldn't stop me from doing for some reason. And I burned the damn thing in the fireplace.
How did you start a fire with a?
They had firewood. It was actually gas. I turned the gas on. Turned the.
You did that at 8?
On a match. Oh yeah, I used to do fires all the time.
You're a pyromaniac,
No,
secretly.
not pyro. No. But so essentially, I turned. I just threw it in there. I didn't know what I was doing. I probably should have said, if there's anything here, you need to go back into the board and go back to where you came from or something like that. But I didn't know. It wasn't until I actually met Amanda that I really started learning how to really deal with the paranormal when I was about 19. But I did deal with the
what happened? Wait, you didn't finish. What happened when you threw it in the fire?
Yeah, it let out this god awful scream, and it was weird because only the people that were awake heard it. And we were like, "Oh my God, it's gonna wake everybody up!" And it screamed for like a minute, and it was like ear piercing. It was crazy, and we were fully on expecting his parents to come down, and for us to get in super big trouble. But no, they never came down. Nobody ever woke up.
So was your thought on that something was in the board opposed to, or like attached to the board? But why would fire burn it?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Why would that affect any entity? I mean, I don't know. I think that it could be true in some cases, but in most cases, it's other people moving it.
Well, I wasn't talking about the planchette. I was talking about it screaming.
Oh, you're talking about the whole board was screaming?
When I threw the board and the planchette in there, it went up pretty quickly, and it just screamed the whole time it burned.
Well, I'm wondering if the plastic is a certain kind of plastic that makes a lot of noise.
It wasn't plastic.
No, the planchettes are plastic.
Oh, that thing melted. Yeah.
I don't know.
That wasn't. Yeah, that went in afterwards. I threw the board in first because they grabbed the planchette from me because they didn't want me to take the board. And as soon as I grabbed it and threw it in there, it screamed bloody murder.
I really wish that I knew my dad's story because my mom said it was really unusual that he did not want that in the house at all. And we couldn't play with it in front of him.
Well, like I always say, Ouija boards are bad. They're not bad. There's people that know, like you kind of did, where you know how to open them correctly. They say prayers over them. They put, different artifacts around on the board.
Like a medium?
Not a medium, but they know how to open the board. They put crystals down and stuff like that. I know some people that practice Wicca also do use, it's not a Ouija board, but it's very similar. They use a board it's a circle. It has all the characters and stuff, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. Somebody, listening will go, oh, I know exactly what that is. But they don't use the pointer. They actually use a crystal attached to a chain, and essentially what you
like a pendulum?
Yeah, like a pendulum. Essentially what you do is you take that pendulum and you there's a little, almost like a key ring, end of a key ring where you put your keys on. You put that around your finger, and then you hold the rest of it in your hand. You drop it down, and essentially right in the middle of the board. And so I didn't believe in this. I thought it was like some kind of game. We were actually at a case in San Juan Capistrano at this time. This is
years ago.
Yeah, 15, 16 years ago. This is like our...
I don't know if it was that long ago. More like 10.
Whatever. It was like one of our, it was a side case that we were working. And there's a lot more to this story. But essentially what I did was I dropped the pendulum down. The lady that owned the home said, hey, you got to try this. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. I'll try it once at least. So I dropped the pendulum down, right? And I'm sitting there laughing and going, okay, look. I can move this thing back and forth. I can swing it any which way I want, right? And she just smiled at me, and she looked at me, and I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, the damn thing went erect. It just the chain was like solid. I tried to move the damn. I could not physically move the thing, and it's in my hand. It's free of anything else. It's just in my hand, and the chain will not move. And then all of a sudden, the damn thing starts pointing to different things. I basically scooped it back up into my hand, set it down on the board, and it said, "Thank you. I'm done talking to you, whoever you are. We're done." And I said something else. I don't remember what I said. I think I said a prayer over the board, but then I walked away. But she isn't like super religious. She was more Wiccan. She practiced Wicca, which is also a very popular
religion.
Like I said, I always say it's one of the very first. It was the very first religion, and she was a white witch, which basically means she practiced white magic and never did anything to harm anybody or anything like that. But she did like to communicate with spirits. She thought that was awesome. So,
Interesting.
anyways, yeah. So that was pretty interesting to have that happen to me. But I always tell people it doesn't matter what you're playing with. If you have an audio recorder in your hand, a K2, a thermal imager, anything that you're trying to communicate with the other side with, a spirit box, you're opening yourself up, and you have to be really careful because you don't know what really is on the other side of that. You don't know what's communicating with you. Even mediums and stuff sometimes can get fooled. So you just gotta be super careful when you're playing with this stuff. You have to really, take caution if you're gonna do one of these to open it correctly,
Close it correctly.
and close it. Yeah, definitely close it correctly. But when you're communicating with whatever you're communicating, you want to make sure. And I've seen people actually do this the correct way. They tell them, they say a lot of things before they even start. They say something like, "Okay, we only want to communicate with you and spirits. We only want to have a positive interaction with you. There's nothing negative allowed in this house." They lay ground rules. They're very specific about what they're expecting to have happen and how they're expecting to have things happen. They're saying you can't harm us in any way. You can't do anything to us. And when we ask you to leave, you need to leave. We're just opening this up for you to communicate with us, and that's basically what they're talking about. But if you just sit down, and I've seen people make Ouija boards just out of cardboard. They just write a bunch of stuff on cardboard, and they use a piece of cardboard, and then they just slide the cardboard around, and it just leads to bad things. One of my cases up in Northern California came from a Ouija board, and essentially the young girl, she was in her teens. The family was atheist, which is fine. Everybody has their own religion or non-religion or whatever they want to do. She thought it was a joke. So she and her teenage friends were sitting there playing with it, and she physically saw something come up out of the board, and she said it looked like death. And essentially, if you're listening, you probably know who you are. Essentially, when we got there, they had gotten rid of the board. We asked them to bring it back so we could close out whatever was happening. And in her room, there was so much activity. It was the weirdest thing ever. I had a shoe pick up and move on its own. I literally saw what looked like a cloaked figure with the head of a skeleton, essentially.
She opened the door.
Yeah, come out of her room in the middle of the night, and we had been up for like 30 some odd hours straight at that point. A friend of mine and I who went up to this case, and we had just finished investigating for the night. We were just crashed. We were just going to get some sleep and head home, and in the morning because we were just too tired to drive. And they were super nice to let us go ahead and stay the night. And so, long story short, that thing came out of her room, got to the stairs, looked at me, and it almost looked like it laughed. And I went to start getting up, and it took off up the stairs. And because their doors, they were all sleeping in Mom's room. There was 3 teenage girls. I wasn't able to go up there and do anything. I wanted to go up and knock on the door and say, "Hey, is everything okay?" When I talked to them in the morning, they seemed okay. And I kind of explained to her what happened, and she just didn't believe me. She thought it was a joke. And then we got all kinds of crazy audio. I think we got 7 or 8 Class A EVPs. One of them was a little girl, and I'm pretty sure it was not a little girl. I said, did you come out of the board? And it said, yes. And almost as clearly as you heard me now. I don't know if I still have that recording. Most of those recordings, I basically, anything negative, I don't bring into the house. I just leave it. If I do break down evidence, I go through and put it somewhere safe, so that it can't harm anything or anyone anymore, because things can attach themselves to audio as well. Or
And
video.
objects.
I can't tell you how many computers I've lost to strange events. Computer just starts smoking, or computer, freaks out. And it was, taken to people. No, it wasn't hacked. It just burned up for no reason. Your motherboard just burned. So, do I think everything that comes through these boards are not, are negative? No. But I do think that it opens a door, and you might think you're communicating with something, and then all of a sudden you're communicating with something else. And by the time you realize that you aren't really talking to a human
or your grandma,
or a grandma, or somebody, a loved one, or somebody that you think you are, you might be dealing with something else, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a demon or a negative energy. If you don't believe in demons, it could just be some spirit, some human that was alive and died, and they're just a bad person, and they're basically just
now they're in your house.
Yeah, now they're free to roam again. Essentially, they've come through the board, and they're going to antagonize whoever for the rest of their lives, essentially, unless they get some help. So, like I said, sometimes people play with Ouija boards and nothing comes through. Sometimes you get nothing, which is awesome. That's great. That means that you haven't brought anything in. Sometimes you play with the Ouija boards and nothing happens, and then hours later, all of a sudden, strange things start to happen because you thought it was, people thought it was a joke. So it's just, like I said, with a K2, at the end of the investigation, I'm going to tell it, hey, I appreciate you communicating with us. Whoever you are, whatever you are, you have to go back to where you came from. Or if I'm cleansing the house, I tell it needs to go to cross over. I'll try and cross it over, or try and deal with it if it's something negative. But that's the difference between gear, having a K2 and stuff like that. You just have to be able. It doesn't matter what you're playing with. When you're done with your investigation, or when you're opening your investigation, a lot of people start with prayers. A lot of teams start with prayers, or they start in a positive way, and they say, we're just here to communicate, not here to harm you. I don't want you to harm us, and stuff like that. So Ouija board's the same thing. If you're going to play with one, make sure you know what you're doing. I know a lot of people think they're a joke, and that's fine. But be careful, be mindful.
I would say be respectful.
Well, respectful is too. Yeah, very, very, very good word, babe. Respectful, safe. My biggest thing whenever we go to do anything is always safety first. That's our top priority. So, like I said, you just don't know what you're communicating with. Doesn't matter what your communication device you're using, you just got to be so careful. And this goes back into spiritual protection. This is why I spent whatever it was, 25 minutes jawing about that the last time. But I've seen so many things happen to people, and I've just seen so many bad things happen to people. Team members, all of a sudden they just disappear. Are you okay? You call and leave voicemail, you call and leave a text, you leave a text, you go knock on their door to check on them, and they've left town, or they've lost their job, and they've had all kinds of bad things happen to them. They're freaking out, and it all happens right after that case because they didn't clear themselves. And so like I said, it doesn't matter what device you're playing with. You just got to be so careful. Be a Ouija board or anything.
That's the other thing is that you also have to be careful, because there's people out there that'll take advantage of you. There's people out there that say that they have, like, they're a medium or they're psychic or anything like that, and they're simply just moving the planchette so that they can get, your reaction. Because a lot of, I'm not saying every single psychic or medium are liars, but you also have to be cautious because you don't want to be taken advantage of.
And that goes with paranormal teams too. If anybody comes in and asks you for money, you might want to scratch your head and think twice about bringing them in. there's a lot of good teams out there that don't ask for anything to come and help people. There's
Right.
a lot of good teams out there. Not just us, but there's other people that really do care about the field and really do love the field and really want to make sure that they're, number one, researching properly, and number two, that they're helping people.
Right.
And unfortunately, one bad apple makes us all look bad. So
Right. We started this podcast and the YouTube channel so that we can fund these things that we do for free. But we're not asking anybody for any kind of money or anything like that. But if you watch our show or like it and share it, that helps us so we can help additional people, for free. It's, kind of everything is out of our pocket. So, and the pocket is getting smaller.
So let's not talk about this tonight. Shh. Sorry, we got a barker. Our dogs are outside barking. Hey, Tink.
Quiet.
So I think we're gonna wrap this up with that. Again, if you do decide, hey, stop it. If you do decide to play with a Ouija board, just please be careful. Shh, Tink. Sorry, guys. So just please be careful. Just be careful what you do with them. Be careful how you approach using them. Have fun. Ghost hunting is definitely fun. It's definitely fun to go out and research the paranormal and make contact with something that you don't know what it is and stuff like that. But my message is always the same: safety, safety, safety. Always be careful. Just because you don't know what you're dealing with. Even me, 26 years into the field, I am still learning constantly. So just make sure you use proper etiquette. Make sure you're being respectful to everything that you communicate with. And like I said, at the end of it, make sure you're closing it out. If there's, okay, we're done with you. Thank you so much for communicating with us. You need to go back to wherever you came from. You're not allowed in my house. You're not allowed in my friend's house. You're whatever. Just make sure you close that out. And, don't ever get rid of the Ouija board if you use it. Put it somewhere safe. Put it somewhere outside, maybe in a garage. If you have holy water, maybe put holy water on the box, because that'll keep that contained. Sage as well, or if you're into crystals or whatever, these are all types of protection. Or you could just say, listen, like I said, you're not allowed in my house. You need to stay out here, whatever you want to do. But Amanda and I have lived in so many homes with so many so many things that have happened, so many strange things. We witnessed some strange things. Me with dealing with the negative cases, I've seen a lot. Not everything, but I've seen a lot. And it's all about protection for you guys. I want everybody to be safe, because guess who gets the call if you guys forget to close the door on whatever it is. Usually it's us or another paranormal team that comes in to try and figure out what happened. So, like I said, have fun. I'm not saying don't use a Ouija board, but please, 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 use caution. All right, guys. With that, we're gonna call it a night. Thank you so much for listening. I apologize for the dogs. They're just all wound up for some reason. So, anyways, thank you guys. We love you. We appreciate your support. Please go check out our YouTube channel, Deep Woods Paranormal, Texas. And again, we really appreciate your support and your listening and your views and everything. So, you guys all have a safe night. Hopefully, we were able to teach a little bit tonight. I was leaving the door open for you to say something.
I was done talking after I got